This is Tanya Lynn with the Sistership Circle podcast. From spirituality, sexuality, and sisterhood to business, relationships, contribution, and creativity, the Sistership Circle podcast introduces a new model of feminine leadership where women get real and vulnerable about it all. Tune in for authentic advice that will empower you to be bold, beautiful, and brilliant as your true self. Hello, sisters. It's Tanya Lynn, and this is going to be a good one. So today, I've got an incredible woman who immediate connection. We were like, oh my God, soul sisters. Yeah. She's like, I'm all about bringing the real, bringing the vulnerability, just so, and the collaboration and the community. I mean, it's just so perfect. So let me introduce you. Let's just dive right in because we got a really juicy conversation today. So Sydney Campos is a transformational coach, intuitive advisor, international speaker, and author of The Empath Experience, What to Do When You Feel Everything. I'm sure everyone can relate with that one, right? And that's, we're going to go in there. We're going to go into the feelings today. Sydney guides visionary leaders to live in alignment with their soul purpose while embodying next level power, pleasure, and prosperity. Yes. Through all her endeavors, Sydney is fiercely committed to awakening consciousness across the planet while creating new paradigms of well-being and interconnectedness. In addition to being a seasoned business strategist and certified holistic health coach. Did you go to IIN?
I did, yes. Yeah. Awesome.
Cool. Sydney is also a 200-hour registered yoga and meditation teacher, Reiki energy healer, and certified Akashic Records practitioner. Sydney shares her multifaceted teachings through writing, her Visionary Souls podcast, teaching, international retreats, and one-on-one mentoring. Sydney is likely to be found in Bali, Venice Beach, San Francisco, New York, or anywhere in Mediterranean Europe. She has been featured in Forbes, Mind, Body, Green, and New York Magazine. I love the multifacetedness. So welcome.
Thank you. Beautiful to be with you.
Yeah. So invited you to come and speak about inner child, but this conversation that we opened before we hit record, I feel like is a really great way for us to start and to dive into this. And for all of us women who are such empaths and sensitive and emotional, and how many of us were shut down by our parents. And this is not about making our parents wrong, because honestly, they didn't know any better. And this is just, I think, our culture, right? Where our culture is about suppress the feelings, don't feel all that you're feeling. There's something wrong with you. Get a hold of yourself, calm down, right? And so then how do we show up now as a way of coping with that and feeling of too much or not enough, feeling too emotional. And so I think, you've kind of been having a new insight and awareness around this, but I feel like every woman listening to this right now has probably been shut down in feeling her feelings as a little girl, and that inner child who's feeling like too much. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a journey, it's a lifetimes of journeying. And, I'll give you a little bit of background just to set a context, you read my bio, which is cool, but, I was born really like as a young child. I remember, some of my earliest memories were like playing with fairies and my imaginary friends and channeling all sorts of magic and really telling the truth, like not being afraid to tell an adult when they were like literally lying or doing something wrong. Like I would just call people out because I have always had a desire to be in the truth. Like as soon as I was like arrived on the planet, I'm like, well, let's tell the truth. Like, let's be in love, and I would just call people out. And very early on, I learned that it was not safe to do that because, people who I expected and depended on to take care of me, I couldn't make them uncomfortable. I couldn't make them upset because then maybe I wouldn't be taken care of. I had to they were providing for me to live. So I learned at a very young age to not tell my truth, to not trust my senses, to not trust my intuition. There are some other dynamics I share a lot about in terms of like sexuality and not learning to not trust my body also. Long story short, and I talk a lot about this in my book, I, just so overwhelmed. I was highly empathic and really just sensitive and had no tools, no awareness, no vocabulary with which to handle that until I found drinking and drugs, which was great because I got to, really finally relax and not worry so much about everybody around me or feel like I needed to take care of everyone so that I could feel okay. And that lasted for about 10 years and ultimately led me to a moment of awakening where I had a choice to, continue doing what I was doing, which was, going to lead to death very soon, or live and learn how to live as a human being and learn how to start feeling again and living presently. So the last 7 years have been that journey, and inner child work has been a really critical part of my healing and really coming back to my authentic self, my soul self, trusting my intuition, learning to love to be in my body, creating healthy, intimate relationships, learning about what intimacy really is. And, presently, as we were just talking about before this, a big insight just to completely presence everything with you. I am really humbled at the layers, that we all have within us as these multidimensional, multifaceted beings. And really, I wrote this book about empaths, what to do when you feel everything. But, I wrote that feels like almost a year ago, another lifetime ago. And what I'm really seeing is how my empathic abilities, my psychic sensitivity, my intuition, all of which are extraordinary gifts, I believe were highly activated really based on survival by being born into a family with parents who came from, generations of addiction, trauma, dysfunction. And so my empath abilities, which I believe all humans, we are wired to be empathic and intuitive, mine ended up being incredibly activated very young because I needed to start taking care of, start sensing energetically what was going on with everybody to ensure that I was going to be okay, particularly with my mother. I believe I started really feeling how she was feeling before I even came out of the womb, and really developed this deep commitment to help her feel better so that I could feel better, right? So that's an interesting dynamic I'm exploring. And as I was sharing, I'm also seeing a dynamic in me that I also developed out of survival, which was, to be really self-reliant and to just notice how, my parents weren't available. They just weren't available, and they loved me and they did the best they could. And I wasn't physically abused, not that I'm conscious of, but they were not available for me in the way that I needed love. And so I made that mean something about me. That they weren't available meant that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't worthy of receiving their love. Maybe if only I could be more, insert blank. They would pay attention to me. They would love me. I would be okay. So that's a big thing that I'm always in. These are deep core lessons that are really beautiful guides in my experience to, pose the contrast to what love really is and what self-love is. And, the last thing I'll say I was alluding to is I'm seeing how, wow, I've been compulsively self-reliant, even while learning to trust God, even while learning about a higher power, even while getting really in touch with my soul consciousness, my intuition, I will still be very self-reliant and feel at a deep level that I must figure things out alone and that it's on me to figure out. Because, when I was younger, I actually learned to be self-reliant and developed a fear of asking for help because that actually would manifest as a fear of being rejected. I knew that my parents weren't available to give me the help that I needed, so I might as well not ask and do it alone, and that is something that even to this day will come up very subtly in my life, and certainly is reflected to me in my intimate relationship where I will, it's amazing because these are the blind spots that will come, these core wounds that are initiated in childhood will come up. And it's everything that I know, everything I could coach someone else through, all my intuitive guidance, all my guides, all goes out the window in the moment where that abandonment, rejection, shame wound is being triggered, you know, and I go back to being 3 years old. Like that's what I'm moving through right now, and really just like seeing kind of with new eyes the ways in which that patterning will, you know, really be in the way of me being my full, powerful, authentic, you know, loving self.
Mm. So everyone listening, let's just take a deep breath in, because you're probably feeling very much like, oh my God, that's me. Because I mean, as Sydney's talking, I'm feeling that within myself. And so, you know, there's different ways that can show up, whether it's physical abuse, or in your situation, you know, maybe there was the drug and alcohol, or even my parents, who seemingly were very loving, very much available, physically, were there physically for me, but emotionally not there for me. And so it's this, I was finding myself in the same patterns, right? And I think that's really interesting, where it's like, if only I can be more of X, and then all of a sudden we are being more of our emotional self, and then it's like, nope, too much, put a lid on it, right?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's a great one. I mean, that has been a massive wow, it's such an amazing paradox, you know, like, whew. And there's so many layers to that. Like, I'll just share in my journey, like, I've uncovered just so many layers to that. Like, you know, we can talk about the collective witch wound. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I've really resonated with that regardless of what you believe, you know, or believe in past lives, that really, like, we are all tuning into a collective consciousness which carries such a massive ancient trauma, you know, in which millions of women and men, all people all over the world for generations, have been murdered for being mystical, wise leaders, healers, you know, different. And and it's such a remnant of a paradigm that I believe is really shattering, that we're really in the midst of like a massive turning point. And sometimes I can't tell if it's like, you know, it's this year, this lifetime, it's all happening, or if it's, you know, 100-year cycle or something. But I feel it. I feel that energy of like, we are moving out of this ancient, long paradigm of oppression, and, you know, that would have us think that there's something to be afraid of when we shine our light all the way on and we radiate our full power, you know, that somehow isolates others or makes people uncomfortable, or, you know, is a threat to our survival. You know, it's really this ancient, outdated, tribal consciousness, I would say, right? Like this survival instinct that, you know, I need to fit in with the tribe so that I'm provided for and protected and safe. You know, safety being the biggest illusion of all time, because we've never been safer, you know, than literally right now. We're so safe, you know, and yet I totally get it. And the beautiful truth I know is so true, that the more you allow yourself to shine your light all the way and really radiate your power, your the truth that you radiate is so magnetic, you can't help but just be healing others in your presence, you know, by not even doing anything, just by being, you know, you literally help raise the consciousness of the planet. You know, that's the kind of era in which we're operating in, that is beautiful. And I mean, the other element of that comes up is being really afraid of your own power. I find that a lot of really powerful women, particularly women who maybe have a preclusion to being healers or visionary leaders that want to really, you know, shake things up, like, you're here to disrupt the status quo and create new ways of being. And there can be an immense fear of your power. There can be a terror of like, can I really hold this? Can I really be this magnificent of a vessel for divine inspiration? Do I really deserve this? But ultimately, like, a fear of really seeing what you are truly capable of, right? And the many facets in which that will come up, from business to your creativity to money to one of my favorite areas to look at that dynamic is in sexuality. So I'm so like, I'm in a really expansive place when it comes to this topic, because I'm really working on refining my next book, which I want to speak to what I believe are the collective shadows really that we're all working on transmuting right now, which are money, sex, and power, and the ways in which those energies keep us separate from God.
Mm. Mm.
Mm.
Awesome. Yeah, excited for that book because it's so
Mm-hmm.
true. And yeah, this piece around self-reliance. So that I love what you were saying about the witch. And it's a reclaiming even of that word, just like with Regina,
Yes.
Mama Gina said,
Mm-hmm.
reclaiming the word pussy. It's the same thing with like reclaiming the word witch, and that it's not an evil, bad thing that has been so portrayed in our culture from Halloween to, you know, everything else. It's so bad when we reclaim that word. And so kind of tying all these little pieces together that you said of, we want to belong and fit in and dim our light to be part of the tribe. And at the same time, the paradox of, but we can't fully trust the tribe because we're not being our authentic self. And we can't collaborate with the tribe because we've kind of been pulled apart. So this idea of self-reliance, I got to do it all myself. And go out there and make it and prove myself because I'm feeling like I'm not allowed to totally be my true authentic self. And so just this paradox, and that's really what we're doing here at Sistership Circle, right? Is learning how to come back together in true and authentic sisterhood to support each other and like really claiming that wise, intuitive woman, the truth of who we are, and learning how to collaborate with one another and let go of trying to do it all by ourselves. We don't need to anymore. And I know that's been, I mean, both of us were the same, where it's, you know, where we've been so strong and so self-reliant and learning how to like ask for and receive help and support and contribution from others.
Yeah, and to expect it, honestly. I mean, I'm in this invitation of like how can I just like, you know, ask and it is given, yes, but like more, you know, like just expecting the best, like just expecting to be taken care of. Not conditional. It's not conditional that I receive support and love is not conditional on, you know, my value or my worth as a human being. I just am supported. You know, I am like, that's the invitation I'm in right now. I'm like, whoa, that's a whole new paradigm of existence. Wow.
Yeah. And it's coming back. So it's like bringing this back to the inner child.
Yeah.
If we're feeling like we weren't really worthy of receiving support and we had to go and do it all by ourselves, to shift that, to reframe that to, yeah, I'm supported no matter what. I can show up exactly as I am, a mess, brilliant, whatever, and I'm still supported. And I'm supported, and I deserve to be supported simply because I am who I am.
Yeah, and it sounds. I'm present to how this all sounds like. I'm noticing right now, like I'm having this memory of like maybe me like 6 years ago hearing a conversation like this and thinking in my head, but how? Like, how do you, it's not that easy, you know? And so, you know, maybe to provide some more context, I created a retreat actually on this kind of this subject matter, and it's called Remember Who You Are, because the inner child is an archetype, I believe, of the soul, of your authentic self, of the true self, whereas all these other aspects of self that we may call the ego or your fear-based self, or the part of you that learned to be compulsively self-reliant and, you know, maybe in really denial of your power is your fault, or different aspects of your false self, right? And so much of the disease, maybe all the dis-ease we notice in society, pervasive throughout the world, right, is a result of people not being able to be their authentic selves, not feeling safe to be who they are, not feeling seen, not feeling heard, not feeling loved, not feeling worthy, right? And so the inner child is an amazing archetype to work with, because for me, it's given me so much power to create the shifts and the change that I've needed, you know, to thrive, right? Moving out of survival, moving out of victim consciousness, which is this ancient paradigm we're moving out of, into creator consciousness, into radical self-leadership, into divinity, right? And so I everyone has all sorts of different wounding and trauma, and we all have awesome things that we get to come in to this life with to learn. And I really take the empowered stance of, you know, seeing all of us as incredible infinite souls that really did choose to be here, and even chose the perfect parents to teach us the perfect lessons that we needed to learn to truly understand love. And so the core wounding, which some of you may be familiar with, but I found this like mind-blowing when I first learned about this, just to finally have a vocabulary to understand some of the ways that I felt my whole life that previously I thought were just, you know, what's wrong with me? Am I the only person that is feeling this way? And I found that no, everybody at some level, either consciously or unconsciously, relates to having one of these core wounds, right? Which we may say hundreds of different ways, but really they boil down to 4, which are abandonment, unworthiness, shame, and unlovability. So these are like the biggest wounds that, you know, and traumas, core wounds, core traumas that can be experienced really, really early on in life, from ages, like I said, even before you're born, like out of the womb, you know, till, you know, it's different for everyone, but usually around age 4, 5, 6, you know, these things tend to be learned, be programmed, you know, like when did your first traumatic experience happen, and what did you make that mean about you? And usually it is rooted in one of those wounds, which will then go on, sometimes for entire lifetimes, in many people's cases, will go on to dictate your unconscious reactivity to all sorts of, you know, everything in your life, and will dictate your relationship strategy, will dictate your belief system, will dictate addiction. If you know, have different addictions, usually manifest from these wounds. And yeah, and it's fascinating. And so I love this awareness, because with this awareness, we can become what we've always needed for ourselves. And we no longer seek, we no longer have to seek the love, the worthiness, the validation, you know, the safety outside of ourselves. We can really start to, you know, in loving our inner child and connecting with our inner child and knowing how these wounds resonate within us, we can take full responsibility for taking care of ourselves now and being all that we've ever needed for ourselves now, you know, and start to really heal and grow from this really grounded, very empowered, again, creator consciousness space.
Mm. Can you share with us one practice perhaps that has helped you to really connect with the inner child archetype? I mean, we don't have to go into it, but just...
Yeah, totally. Sure. Yeah, I have a little bit about this in my book. I also have a really powerful transmission, like guided meditation journey that I love to send people to if you'd like to do a deeper, like 30-minute guided exploration of what I'm about to share with you briefly. The first time I met my inner child was actually in a Reiki session very early on in my sobriety, and, you know, right around the same time I learned that I was an empath. And the Reiki healer kind of snuck in a little inner child meditation, which I had never done anything like that before. And it was the first time that I realized that I was the only thing in the way of receiving all the love that I ever wanted, and that I was the only one preventing myself from really having that, because I met my inner child in this meditation, and I could not say I love you to myself. And it was like, and it was all in silence in my mind's eye, right? And I couldn't even say it inside, like in my mind, I couldn't say I love you to myself. And that's a really common experience that I've seen so many people relate to right upon first making contact. It's a very common experience, you know, and yet it was so heartbreaking. It was like, oh my God, intellectually, I know that I should be able to say I love you, and why can't I? And it was an amazing breakthrough to see, oh my God, I'm the one in the way of like really feeling this love that I want. It's me, you know, so how can I create that? And so from there, I cultivated, many different, lots of different practices and, you know, healing in community and meditation. But I would say, you know, a really powerful practice that you can take with you right now to just start connecting with yourself in this way is to consciously, and I even put this in my book, I say this all the time and I just love it so much. Start setting a timer on your phone for every half an hour, and when that timer goes off, take really, really deep breath, like 3 deep breaths, like full body deep breaths, relax, and tune in with yourself. Tune in with and maybe the inner child doesn't resonate with you, but maybe your soul, your intuition, your higher self. I believe they're all the same thing, just different words for the same energy, your essence. Tune in with yourself. Even if none of those work for you, tune in with your heart, and just really like tune in with yourself and ask, what do I need right now? Is there anything that I can support myself with right now? Is there anything that I need to feel my best? What do I need? And just asking those types of questions will activate your intuition, which will only speak to you through good feelings, through your desires, right? It's not activating the mind or the intellect, which is operating in a past or future-oriented mind frame. And and you can just start to really receive powerful guidance that is naturally available to you to help you be in alignment with your purpose, with your best feelings, with grounded sense of self. But the important part is you don't just listen and receive, right? This is also an exercise in receiving, which will become more empowered the more you practice. But it's also about acting, aligned, committed action following the guidance that you receive. So you receive, the guidance that in this moment you need water. Go get yourself water right away, right? And it may sound so simple, but enough of these acts listened and then committed to with aligned action, they compound to heal unworthiness, to build self-esteem, to build self-trust, to empower your intuition, to expand your receptivity, right? So like building a new muscles. That's one of the most incredible practices I could recommend to anybody.
I love it. So what's the URL? And I'll also put this in the notes on the post for this meditation.
It's all on my website. Yeah, it's just sydneycampos.com, and it's under resources somewhere. Inner child healing. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. I'll put a direct link to that.
Great.
If you ladies would like to go grab that, you can. I'll also put a link. You'll see the link to her book if you want to check that out. So awesome. So let's, as we start wrapping up, what else is wanting to come through? So if we were going to wrap up and close this conversation, what else is wanting to be spoken?
Yeah, I really feel, the message I've been tuning into and sharing with, having reflected in different client conversations, especially lately, is with this, changing paradigm out of, victim to creator, out of surviving to thriving. I'm reminded that, as much as I love healing and I love I want to know the story of where the wound came from. And, I love it. I love that whole exercise, right? And like getting underneath to the root and like figuring it out and all that good stuff. Yes. And definitely. But I'm reminded that we are being asked to be really responsible for moving energy just out of our body, and that our mind actually can be put to rest a lot more than maybe we're accustomed to, right? I'm being reminded of just the power in really letting our bodies work for us, because they naturally want to be in optimal health, well-being, and clarity. And when we give ourselves the space and the opportunity to really do breath work, dance, move, with the intention to clear anything that is stagnant, anything that is holding you in an old paradigm, in an old pattern, and you simply hold the intention to release that from the body somatically so that it just leaves you. There's nothing to figure out, and there's no over processing or over, it's almost like I've definitely had this in the past. It can manifest as like an addiction to processing and healing and needing to know the story. And, that can very easily manifest as a victimizing experience, right? Like I need to be in this trauma and really see how everything happened. And whereas maybe you can just do breath work for half an hour and really move some powerful energy out of you, and you don't even need to know what it was. You don't even need to know the story necessarily to really just let that go and create space for more of your authentic self to simply arrive. So that's my invitation. If you notice yourself really struggling in story and feeling like, I can't just let it go, I need to resolve, I need to heal this, just to be mindful and aware and observant, right, of yourself, or if you're being supported in a mentoring container, to just be open to receiving, maybe what feels like very contrasting guidance. That sounds almost too easy, too simple. Like, what? I can just get out of the mind and, go really just move this energy in a really fun way, and it can just be gone. And then I can just choose to feel, my essence. I can just choose to feel joy. I can just choose to feel happy now. I can just choose to feel really good right now. Like right now, I can choose to feel how I really want to feel, and that my present moment ability to feel joyful, abundant, fulfilled, loved, powerful is not contingent upon a future, condition of accolades, success, achievement, right? That it's all about right now, and that we really do deserve to just be able to choose, how we really want to feel now. We have that power. We're really supported in embodying that power now.
I love that. I just had I've been experiencing that as well, like less processing, less figuring it out. Yeah. I recently had this healing session where just moving resentment out of my body. And I was with a friend, and she's like, well, where did it come from? She wanted to hear the whole story. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't care. Don't really have much else to tell you other than I was feeling the sensation of this resentment in my body, and I was moving it and letting it go. That was it. And yeah, I've moved into that. So I'm so happy that we're ending on that note of feeling your feelings, allowing them to move through their energy and motion. And I love like using breath work, using movement, using, different somatic technologies, whatever, to just let it go and not get into our heads about it. So thank you. Amazing. Thank you, sister, for bringing all this amazing, real, authentic juice to our tribe.
My pleasure.
So sisters, if you want to go check out sydneycampos.com, and we'll put the links there so you can have some her book and the meditation. So honoring you, sister. Thanks for being here. All right, sisters. So if you really like that, then I'm going to highly recommend that you go and check out our Inner Child Archetype Activation Package. And you can find this at sistershipcircle.com/shop/innerchild. And this is for you if you've been feeling stressed out in your head, feeling too serious, trying to figure everything out, and you really want to lighten things up. You're ready to bring more play, fun, and joy into your life. And you like to play with the fairies, and in particular, bring your own fairy godmother to life. So invoking the child within to come out and play first requires that she feels safe to be seen and heard. So this is an opportunity to bring her forward, listen to her, and just really bring this magical energy into all that you do. So you're going to get gifts from the magical fairy realm. You're going to get an inner child healing audio and transcript. You're going to get a really fun ritual game to play by yourself or in your circles. You're going to get the fairy medicine bag, lots of goodies to understand the fairies more and bring them into your life, and the enchanted forest and the magical fairy godmother invocation audio and transcript. In addition, we've got 3 different guest mentor bonus audios. One is to invoke the butterfly maiden and the goddess Anye, and another one that has really powerful meditation to integrate both the dark and the light for the inner child to fully emerge. So go ahead, go on over to sistershipcircle.com/shop/inner child to grab that today.